This video is about to get very surgical, so stay with me, okay? A lot of people have been asking me, where's part two? Where's part two? If you didn't know, today is the 1-year anniversary of a very special day, okay? Today is the 1-year anniversary of when J. Cole went on stage in front of thousands and apologized to Kendrick Lamar, okay? Ironically, a year later at the same fest, he did two things that I knew he would do. Two things that I knew he would do. Two things that nobody's talking about. Okay? And these two things validate the points that I made in part one. Now, before we get to that, we also got to talk about a couple more lines in Port Antonio. And when I get into that part of this video, I'm gonna break a whole lot of hearts. Okay? A lot of J. Cole fans gonna have their heart broken because there's another part of Port Antonio that nobody talks about. But before I get to that, did y'all know that J. Cole already did something just like this before? And he actually tried to use the same tactics in what he did before in Port Antonio. Yeah, some of y'all already know what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about Snow and the Bluff today. The diss track that J. Cole put out against No Name Gypsy. Okay? A lot of people don't talk about this song. But when I went and looked through the lyrics, I'm like, wait a minute. He's tried this formula already. Okay? And in both situations, his reputation was seen to be at stake. Now, if y'all don't remember, this was during a time where there was a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on in the community. And No Name Gypsy, who was pretty much a known activist who's doing work in the streets, using her platform, etc., made a tweet. Didn't even say J. Cole's name. Made a tweet stating there's a lot of rappers out there who talk a whole lot about what they're gonna, the communities and all that in their music, but you never see them participate in anything in the streets. Okay? J. Cole decided to respond to this by doing this. And what do you know? Remember my main point of being that J. Cole pretends to be naive? That J. Cole, what he does is pretend to act like he has no idea what's going on. Well, look at the first two lines of this diss track. People be thinking I'm deep intelligent, full with my college degree. My IQ is average. There's a young lady out there, she way smarter than me. Now, initially, people think this is his attempt of, being humble and being, no. This is the same exact thing he always does. Whenever the lights are on him, when it's time for criticism, he plays naive. He plays like he has no idea what's going on. And he pretends like he doesn't know what he's doing when he's trying to create a narrative through a verse. Okay? She mad at these capitalists, mad at these murder police. She mad at our ignorance, wear her heart on her sleeve. She mad at celebrities, and low-key I think that she talking about me. I wonder why you feel like she talking about you. Okay? Now, I ain't no dummy to think I'm above criticism, so when I see something that's valid, I listen, but it's something about the queen tone that's bothering me. Okay? Now, he then goes, I'm not even going to read all the lyrics, but he then goes on to break down this whole idea of the fact that No Name Gypsy more than likely grew up in an environment where her parents were able to give her this idea of what's going on in the communities and all this different stuff. And because of this, she believes that she can talk down on people who don't understand that. It sounds very good until you remember there's a reason why you weren't shown or taught these things. Because you didn't grow up in a community that would force you to recognize these things. J. Cole grew up in a suburb and was raised by his German mother. Why would you be in a position to be taught these things? Now, instead of saying like, oh, I wasn't taught these things because I didn't grow up in that, he makes it seem like he's just one of those ignorant niggas who was in the streets too much, so they didn't really understand enough. Wasn't smart enough, so they didn't understand enough. No, 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 no. You weren't aware of these things because you didn't grow up in that environment. And you didn't have a black mother, which is totally fine. I'm not blaming him for that. But you didn't have the influence of what it is to be of somebody of black American descent in your household. That's why you weren't taught these things. Instead, he attempts to spin it and pretend that No Name Gypsy is arrogant and condescending. And he hides this message behind the humble idea of, what is the point of preaching your message to people that already believe what you believe? Like, it's like, he knows exactly what he's doing. The change is inevitable. Therefore, we just got to learn everything as we go. I struggle with thoughts on a daily. Feel like a slave that somehow has saved enough coins to buy his way out of slavery. Like, he's paying this idea of him being somebody who grew up in the projects around a bunch of, you know what I'm saying, in this environment. And because of that, he can't understand or participate in what No Name Gypsy is talking about. It's the same exact method he used in Port Antonio, okay? Where there's a little bit of vulnerability, but not enough accountability. Well, maybe because deep down, I know I ain't doing enough. You see what I'm saying? This is where he starts to paint himself as the victim. That's what this whole song is about. Painting himself as the victim. Sounds like somebody else I know. Anyway. This whole song and this whole concept is no different than the exact same thing he did on Port Antonio. He dropped it as a surprise. He did it at the height of the criticism of people pointing it out to, hey, you are this or you are that. And he spins the narrative back on the people who, on No Name Gypsy. You see what I'm saying? And the crazy thing is, nobody talks about the fact when No Name Gypsy responded, she really pointed out these flaws. Okay? So that's how you know I'm not tripping. And based on the people who watched part one, y'all not tripping because I never seen that many people in my comments agree with what I had to say. She says, I saw a demon on my shoulder. It's looking like patriarchy. Like scrubbing blood off the ceiling and bleaching another carpet. How my house get haunted? Why toy in your body don't embody all the life she wanted? A baby this 19, and that's the little girl that had died, right? He then says, one girl go missing, another one go missing. But niggas in the back quiet as a church mouse. Basement studio when duty calls to get the verse out. I guess the ego's hurt now. It's time to go to work. Wow, look at him go. He really thought to write about me when the world is in smokes? When it's people in trees? When George was begging for his mother saying he couldn't breathe? You thought to write about me? Nobody talks about this verse. Nobody talks about this verse. She is calling out the hypocrisy. And don't get me wrong, everybody's a hypocrite. I'm not mad at that. But when you then take this and constantly try to spin it in your favor, as if you don't have a degree in communications and know exactly what you're talking about, it's time to point that out. This is also around a time where a lot of people were poking at J. Cole for cultural appropriation. Because if you remember in 2020, this is like the height of the social justice warriors, and J. Cole was a victim of that at the time. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people don't remember that. Okay? Little did I know all my reading would be a bother, because J. Cole had an issue with her reading. Is trans woman being murdered and this is all he can offer? This is all y'all receive? Distracted from the convo with organizers, they talking about abolishing police, and this the new world order. She broke it down to a T and clocked his shit, bruh. This is exactly what J. Cole be doing, but nobody pay attention. Okay? I just wanted to point that out to let y'all know this is a consistent thing with J. Cole, where he plays dumb and he punches down and tries to play this condescending role where it seems like he's lending you a helping hand, as if he knows what he's talking about. He did the same thing to Lil Pump. All right? Now that we got that out the way, Let's move forward to 7-minute drill, okay? One of the parts in this song that I really want to talk about is when he starts talking about the controversy with Kendrick Lamar, right? He said, I came up off of bars, not no controversy. That's very interesting. Because from what I remember, J. Cole's career was very controversial. It's always been controversial. As a matter of fact, it's so controversial, if you go on Google right now after you're done watching this video, you will see there are many articles talking about J. Cole and his controversy. Okay? But this is, once again, an attempt of J. Cole trying to rewrite history at the turn of a new decade, understanding that the new audience wasn't there to experience when he came up. I'm telling you, bro, he is a much more crafty manipulator than y'all think he is. Okay? And I even pulled up an article that came out the day he dropped 7-minute drill, because people were like, wait a minute, you calling out Kendrick for controversy, but your career is full of controversy. And a lot of the controversy sometimes doesn't have much to do with just calling people out or diss tracks. It's more about the wild things you be saying in your music. Lyricism versus misogyny, social activism criticism, colorism controversies, allegations of insensitivity, which is not a big deal to me, cultural appropriation debates. We never talk about the fact that J. Cole and Drake are kind of similar in the aspect of being white passing rappers, right? Who use their ability to maneuver in both arenas to their power. And nobody talks about this stuff. And it's because J. Cole has done an amazing job at hiding behind this humble, I have no idea for possessions, minimalist perspective that he's given his audience, that a lot of people have bought into. Okay? And let's read this. While J. Cole continues to captivate audience with his thought-provoking lyrics and captivating performances, controversies remain an integral part of his journey. As his career unfolds, it's evident that his impact extends beyond the realm of music, prompting important conversations about art, activism, and social responsibility. Love or criticize him, J. Cole's influence on the cultural landscape is undeniable, ensuring that his legacy will endure amidst the controversies that surround him. Okay? J. Cole has always been controversial, and I could break down a whole bunch of the controversies in his career, but that's not the meat and potatoes of this video, so we're not going to do that. Okay? And now we get into the part that's going to break a whole lot of hearts. Okay? What a lot of people don't remember because they were distracted by the Super Bowl performance, they were distracted by Lil Wayne crying about not being on the Super Bowl, and Young Money in collection attempting to spin the narrative against Kendrick Lamar. They forgot something very crucial. Okay? Let's go down to a certain lyric first. To remind y'all, J. Cole never mentions Kendrick by name. And what you got to remember is Kendrick is assuming that J. Cole isn't aware that Drake is manipulating him, putting him out in the field first while he creates his game plan, and they can then team up and take on Kendrick Lamar, because it was supposed to be a 2-on-1. And that's why Drake was so mad that J. Cole backed out, right? He goes on to only mention Drake by name and tell him, you'll always be my guy, okay? And tapping back into your opinion. Don't worry about the narratives. Tap back into your pen, bro. The rap ain't about beefing. It's about boom, boom, boom. Right? But what if I told you J. Cole dropped this song to avoid a rap beef with Drake? I bet y'all don't remember. Right before Port Antonio came out, Drake was applying pressure on J. Cole. And even there was podcasts going on. You know what? I'm not even going to say that. But I have a distinct memory of Mal even mentioned, Mal from, what's that show? You know what I'm talking about. Mal even mentioning that Drake might be gearing up to go at J. Cole. That's what he was insinuating. And what backs this up is the many different posts that Drake was posting to make fun of J. Cole. A lot of people forgot that Drake was making fun of J. Cole. You don't believe me? Here you go. Drake on his backup account, Plot Twist, was sharing memes. I don't know if y'all remember when J. Cole went through that whole year span of people just making fun of him nonstop because they thought he was corny, because they thought it was if you was there, you remember. This is one of the memes from that time. Okay? It says, remember when J. Cole got his phone stolen out of his pocket by a fan and they called Jay-Z from it, but he wasn't answering. So they called from their own phone and he picked up. Basically insinuating Jay-Z ignored J. Cole's phone call, but when Jay-Z got a random phone number in his phone, he answered it. Okay? Why would Drake share this? Because he was making fun of J. Cole. Just like he made fun of J. Cole in Family Matters. You know who didn't make fun of J. Cole? Kendrick Lamar. So why would J. Cole then get on Port Antonio and big up Drake? Initially, you believe, it's because he's trying to be on Drake's side. He's taking sides with Drake. He's trying to play both sides. I believe he did this to avoid a battle. Because in reality, J. Cole fears confrontation. Just like Drake fears confrontation, but the difference is Drake can fear confrontation and still get into confrontation because he has a lot of powerful sources to back him up with the bots, the propaganda, etc. So even though he fears confrontation too, it doesn't matter because he's used to using the industry and the powers that be to give him the upper leg on anybody, right? J. Cole doesn't have this power. So J. Cole is fearful of confrontation. You want even more proof? Besides the apology to Kendrick Lamar and the ignoring the fact that Drake was antagonizing him. Okay? Guess who else has been going at J. Cole recently? Kanye West. And what did he decide to do in his recent Dreamfest festival? Let's take a look. He decides to show love to Ye at the concert. The same guy who dissed Kanye West when Kanye was in a straitjacket and he couldn't say nothing. But now that Kanye's outside and he's on Twitter going on rants and, Kanye's saying some crazy shit, whatever. But the fact is, Kanye is still able to spin a narrative on somebody who isn't as powerful as a Kendrick Lamar. Of course, it won't work against Kendrick because Kendrick at this moment is the most powerful in the game, right? But J. Cole don't want no issues with nobody. And once again, when the heat is starting to catch up on him and Kanye West continuously going at J. Cole, calling him a false idol, calling all these different things, here he goes showing love, right? Which is interesting to me because how you diss a dude while he's in a mental facility, but now you ready to give him his flowers. All of a sudden, now that he dissing you, okay? The last thing that nobody's paying attention to, okay? Notice, Drake loses the battle, he goes to the Australian tour and starts this whole pity sympathy tour, right? Where he's got bullet holes in his shirt, he's all sad and all this different stuff, right? I got an album coming out for you guys where I'm gonna talk about what's really going on and all this different stuff. J. Cole, ever since the rap beef, been playing into nostalgia very much. Have you noticed that? Playing super heavily into nostalgia to the point where he's giving this whole idea and painting everything as a farewell tour. J. Cole is currently on a farewell tour. Just like when Kobe was leaving the league and Kobe, people knew this was his last time. J. Cole is creating the same idea. But the reason why he's doing this is because that's the only way he can get people, or at least his personal fan base, to stick with him during this final stretch of his career. He did the same thing last night, where the whole entire show He's sent, or for a good amount of the show, from a lot of the clips that I've seen, he's playing on nostalgia. He's playing on playing this and playing and going back to his old days when in the 7-minute drill song he was talking about just now hitting his prime. If you just now hitting your prime, why are you going on a farewell tour? Why are you insinuating that you are about to retire? Because this is the only way he can spin the narrative back in his favor. It's no different than what Drake is doing. No different than what Drake is doing. Okay? And what people don't understand is Drake and J. Cole are a lot more similar than people give them credit for. And I would break that down, but that would take a whole nother video that, you know what? I'm not 100% sure invested to know if I really want to do that video, but I just might. If y'all let me know, if you want that video, I will break it down. It's alarming how similar Drake and J. Cole actually are. The only difference is J. Cole was able to at least grow up in America. So he has a better understanding of certain things that a Canadian would not. That's the only difference. And it sounds crazy until I make the video and it really gets surgical. Then you're going to really see, oh, wait a minute. This is crazy. Okay? But you got to pay attention to the fact that J. Cole is insinuating the fact that he's on a farewell tour. Okay? And this is the only way for him to spin everything in his favor. You see what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of crafty master manipulation going on here. And the reason why people don't get on Drake as much, J. Cole as much as they get on Drake about it, is because J. Cole is better at it. Okay? Drake can fool people who have no idea about the culture, who have no idea what's going on. What J. Cole has done is he's able to trick people in a way with his image. The image that he picked up, by the way, after To Pimp a Butterfly came out. But that's a whole different conversation. You see what I'm saying? But like I said, bruh, this guy is extremely crafty in what he's doing. You see what I'm saying? And it basically summarized everything we're talking about. I got my notes here. Okay? We broke down Snow in the Bluff. An attempt to show you that J. Cole has already done this, and this is a pattern of his. Okay? Also, we broke down No Gypsy's response, pointing out everything that I'm saying, but she wasn't famous enough for her voice to really get out there and for people to take it seriously. Okay? Then we get into the fact that he's fearful of confrontation, which is validated by him apologizing to Kendrick Lamar, for him dropping Port Antonio to slow down the Drake becoming angry and probably about to send shots at him, right? And who knows what Drake knows about J. Cole, right? And showing love to Kanye all of a sudden, even though you used to diss him. And now that he's applying heat on you, you showing love to Kanye to get him off your back. Okay? Then we look into Port Antonio or we look into the Dream Fest, and even the big show he did before that, I think it was like the Dreamville Memorial Show or something like that. It was something like that. And Memorial Show or something like that. And he was doing a whole bunch of nostalgia, etc. during that stuff too. You see what I'm saying? It's a lot of mastery and manipulation going on here, bro. You gotta pay attention. Okay? I might make a part 3 depending on how the future turns out. Because I believe J. Cole is going to continue to do this. He has the opportunity, though, just like Drake had the opportunity, to let go of the things that are holding him to this image he's trying to portray to y'all, okay? And be himself authentically, okay? I think he actually has more of a chance to do that than Drake. And if y'all remember when I said about the Age of Aquarius, if J. Cole does do that, which he has the opportunity with the Fall Off album, he will see great results from it. And I think he will get back into the graces of the hip-hop culture. Because currently the hip-hop culture is looking J. Cole like he a sucker, bro. That's the reality of it. Okay? But once again, this is Drake Isn't the Only Master Manipulator Part 2. Appreciate y'all for watching. Also, you love storytelling like Tupac's Brenda's Got a Baby or Sing About Me by Kendrick Lamar. You're going to love the vocal cords of a broken woman by me. We just hit 10K on it, and the comments are amazing, and I think that's why you would like it. You see what I'm saying? Go check that out. It takes 3 minutes of your time. Appreciate y'all for coming to watch. And let me know if y'all really want that Drake and J. Cole comparison video, because I'll really get into it. You see what I'm saying? But love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Talk to y'all soon.